All right, so it's Friday, August 26th. Hopefully everybody's having a great day. I'm here on Dauphin Island. As usual, when a hurricane approaches, I get out here in it. And we have Tropical Storm Ida that's bearing down on us or beginning to kind of make that approach into the Gulf of Mexico. So let's put a lay of the land here, tell you where I am and how this is possibly going to go down. Let's go. All right, we are looking due south. That's due south. That is the Gulf of Mexico. The Mobile Bay is right here. This is the bay. I'm going to pan to my left. That is my east. So that is Baldwin County, Alabama. You can see that there's some energy already in this northern Gulf of Mexico, not tied to Tropical Storm Ida, and mind you, soon to be Hurricane Ida. We are still making that kind of approach through the western side of Cuba and into the Gulf of Mexico, and that should happen sometime today, overnight hours, and we're going to start seeing Tropical Storm Ida really start to churn in those shallow, deep, warm waters that really are conducive to rapid intensification. So if I pan here further to my left, that is like the other side of the Mobile Bay. So that's coastal Alabama in that direction. You can see the Dauphin Island Bridge that connects us to the mainland just in the distance. See a little blurry there, it clears up for you, but that's the Dauphin Island Bridge that connects us to the mainland. Panning to my left, this is beautiful Fort Gaines here. You can't see it very well, but that's the Gulf of Mexico. And as this storm approaches, the eye of the storm will come just offshore, out in the Gulf of Mexico, pass us to the west, and kind of make that Hurricane Laura approach toward towards the Louisiana Gulf Coast. However, I'm going to get into some graphs here shortly, and I'm going to show you that this cone of uncertainty is still very much anyone's game between coastal Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. Let's take a look at some of it. You can see the ocean or the bay is starting to chop up a bit. I'm having to kind of yell on the camera because the wind is already picking up. But let's see what this storm's going to do and see if we can put some thoughts together. See if we agree or disagree with some of the current models. So I mentioned historic Fort Gaines. Here's a look at it just briefly with the nice cannon that overlooks the Mobile Bay. Beautiful site, some of the natural gas drilling platforms out here, but I wanted to come to the beach side to show you that we are right on the beach. I don't know if you can see that lighthouse off in the distance there. Let me try to zoom in on that lighthouse. You can start to see it kind of sticking up there. That is the entrance to the Mobile Bay. That lighthouse is inoperable now. But nonetheless, this is how close we really are. I'm going to go back to the lab at the house, start looking at some maps with you guys. But I stopped here because of one major thing. Within the past 4 hours, I woke up at 4 looking at the barometric pressure. If the barometric pressure drops, that means storms are strengthening. The barometric pressure at 4 a.m. was 1,003 millibars, and it has now dropped to 996, and it has not entered the Gulf of Mexico. Everyone must be careful with this storm. Beautiful sight here, leaving out of Fort Gaines. Beautiful sight. I'm going 5 miles an hour, by the way. I'm going to cut this off, but beautiful sight. By the way, that pier, if you go back and watch my Hurricane Sally videos, as it was making its approach, I was standing out on the end of that pier. That pier is no longer there. Not long after Hurricane Sally made landfall, that pier disappeared. Thank goodness I wasn't on it. I did want to take a moment and show you our house and how it's still under construction from Hurricane Sally. So that's our house. You can see that there's doors still off on one side. Some of the fronts still not done. But nonetheless, that's all still construction left over from Hurricane Sally. And by the way, knowledge drop, Hurricane Katrina in 2005 made landfall on the same day or same time frame as this Hurricane Ida is supposed to make landfall. Kind of eerie. And by the way, Hurricane Katrina made landfall in the same area, Louisiana, and there was devastation here on Dauphin Island. Again, we are very close to New Orleans as the crow flies. See, again, it's still ongoing. But here's kind of the setup here. When the storm starts moving in, I'll get the gist of this stuff off the ground and start setting up weather videos and so forth out here. So this is my backyard. Again, there's stuff all under the house, so a storm surge pushes in here, and we have a lot of trouble. Speaking of storm surge, as of right now, if the current models stay the way they are, and all the models are kind of overlapping, so there's a high probability that the models do stay somewhat the same. Now, those models have a standard deviation error of about 100 miles either way. But let's look at if it stayed the same with a 4 to 7 foot storm surge here. So high tide is right now between 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and it's getting a little bit later in the day. The high tide is as we move forward towards the weekend. So if this storm made landfall, let's say at 7 or 8 in the morning, there would be 4 to 7 feet of water here, and it's relatively low tide now. The tide is falling, and I'm about a foot off the water here. So with 3 feet of storm surge on top of high tide, I have water on top of here. You can check out some of my latest videos that I've done where I had water all the way underneath the house with a relatively weak storm. But if we get 4 to 7 feet storm surge on top of high tide, we'll have water well into the yard, underneath the house, all the way to Indian Bay there behind me. And we're up there, obviously. All right, here's the latest graphic from the National Hurricane Center. This graphic came out while I was just riding around here on Dauphin Island. Within the past 4 hours, from the early morning intermediate update to the 8 a.m. intermediate advisory, the pressure has dropped from 1,003 millibars to 996 millibars, which means it is strengthening, and the sustained winds have gone from 45 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour. Now, what we have steering this is we have a low pressure, excuse me, I'll get the pin out. We have a low pressure in this area, and we have a high pressure in this area. So right now, it's still pushing the storm to the north and to the west. But as this storm enters into the Gulf Coast, this high pressure is supposed to dissipate a bit, and it'll move past this shearing low pressure, and we'll start to get a western side of the storm to develop. Right now, if you look at the infrared, you'll see that it's lopsided now. There is a only right side of the storm. That low pressure here is shearing off that side of the storm. But that's not going to hang around very long. As this storm moves into the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf waters are very, very warm. The deeper the warm water goes, the more energy the hurricane will get. So some of these water temperatures in the northern Gulf of Mexico are in the high 80s, and the water is very shallow. And one of the earlier little segments that I did, I said deep and shallow warm waters. I kind of spoke and just kind of confusing probably to you there. What I meant is that the water is shallow and the warm water goes down deep in that shallow water. So as the hurricane churns up that water, that warm water that churns storms is going to be all around it with very little shear as this storm moves forward. All right, one of my favorite graphics to look at are these simple intensity models. On the left axis, going up and down, is wind speed. On the lower axis, going left and right, is hours moving forward in time. All of these models pretty much have this being a strong Category 2 storm, or even a Category 3, so we have kind of an agreement with models that we're for sure going to get a powerful Category 2. Some of the models, looks like 3 of them, even take it up to a strong Category 3, even close to a Category 4. Now, Hurricane Katrina was kind of in this threshold of power, and remember, it made landfall, Katrina, in New Orleans, and devastation happened here on Dauphin Island. I must reiterate that just because the center of circulation shows to be making landfall 100 miles as the crow flies to our west, it was the same way during Katrina, and wow, was it bad. Anyway, let's get prepared for this one for sure, because a Category 3 in our neck of the woods, no matter what, there will be impacts for sure. All right, a quick look at some of the latest spaghetti models. These are different ensembles that are attained by putting different statistical information in computers with slightly different information, and what we get is this result. We get a bunch of ideas of where the storm could make landfall. Now, this is going to be a big, powerful storm, so it doesn't really matter where that center of circulation is. Remember that here where we are on the Alabama Gulf Coast is right here in this area. So if this storm even were on if it didn't deviate, we would still be on that eastern side of the storm, which would bring significant impacts here. Now, the only reason why this storm is kind of pegged in this kind of a trajectory is because we have a high pressure here. And we have a low pressure here, but this system is going to move past that, and this high pressure is supposed to kind of fall away a little bit, to subside a little bit. So a more northerly track is not out of the question, and we don't have a lot of time to prepare for it. So everyone should treat this storm with absolute respect. Get ready for this one. So a quick look at the rainfall totals. Now, this again is just a prediction. We are right here where this orange is there. I'll get that out of the way so we can see. But right now, we are forecasted on this track here in Dauphin Island to get 6 to 10 inches of rain. Just to our west, Louisiana area, coastal Mississippi, expected to get from 10 to 15 inches. Now for New Orleans, a landfall on top of high tide, on top of 10 to 15 inches of rain, on top of the fact that they're below sea level with a levee system in place, that could be a disastrous recipe there. And I don't mean to say could be, it will be if this track doesn't change. So again, with this current trajectory, this is a rainfall total, a prediction from out to 5 days. So let's keep our mind on getting storm surge and flood preparation ongoing, because that's a lot of rain. It is moving pretty quickly. We remember Sally kind of came up here and just stalled out and stayed on top of us for a couple of days. This storm is moving northwest at 15 miles an hour, so it should kind of hit and get out of here in a hurry. But nonetheless, there will be some devastation in its path wherever it makes landfall. A quick look at projected wind speed. Now on the bottom you can see the different colors of what wind speeds that the colors represent. So again, based on the current trajectory, and it's really a high probability, I've said it once or twice, that the models generally are all over the place. And these models are pretty much right together. Doesn't mean it won't deviate by 100 miles or so, but it means that there's a high likelihood that it lands where this says it's going to land. I do think, though, I'm going to make my own prediction that this storm does take a more northerly approach, which means I think these impacts are going to be more towards us. I think the impacts will be more to the east. Because I do think this high pressure that's over here in this area, I think that high pressure will dissipate and allow this storm to turn more towards the north. But in the purple indicates here that there's wind speeds projected 90 miles an hour plus, and they're going to be a lot higher than that. I can promise you that. Here in Dauphin Island where we are, we're in that brown area, what's forecasted 50 to 60. But again, if this storm even moves, 50 miles to the right, we've got the reds and purples now. So this I wouldn't pay too much attention to, but you can see that these assumptions are all very strong. So there's not much to keep this storm from weakening, and there's only things to keep it strengthening. So a quick look at the infrared radar, and I just wanted to show you this so I could just explain to you why there's no western side of this storm yet. So the center of circulation is somewhere in this area. There's a low pressure on this side of the storm that is shearing off the western side of the storm. So that's why you don't see that round hurricane shape. But as this storm moves past that low pressure, that's when this storm is going to really gather strength, get into that open, warm Gulf of Mexico, and really start to turn into a traditional hurricane shape. So I'm guessing within the next 16 to 36 hours, we have a hurricane with a defined eye. The only reason I'm not saying sooner is because it does have to traverse this little area of land here in Cuba. So I think we'll see that hurricane develop right after it travels over that edge of Cuba. But let's keep our eyes on this one. It's been a great video. But I really do think this will be the strongest storm of the year so far. I think it will rival the power of Sally. I don't think it will rival the devastation of Sally, at least here where we live, because it's moving a lot quicker. But we will see. Any changes to the movement to the east, a more north and eastern path, then things will get a lot worse here than at least we're predicting right now. So a quick look at the infrared radar. And I just wanted to show you this so I could just explain to you why there's no western side of this storm yet. So the center of circulation is somewhere in this area. There's a low pressure on this side of the storm that is shearing off the western side of the storm. So that's why you don't see that round hurricane shape. But as this storm moves past that low pressure, that's when this storm is going to really gather strength, get into that open, warm Gulf of Mexico, and really start to turn into a traditional hurricane shape. So I'm guessing within the next 16 to 36 hours, we have a hurricane with a defined eye. The only reason I'm not saying sooner is because it does have to traverse this little area of land here in Cuba. So I think we'll see that hurricane develop right after it travels over that edge of Cuba. But let's keep our eyes on this one. It's been a great video. But I really do think this will be the strongest storm of the year so far. I think it will rival the power of Sally. I don't think it will rival the devastation of Sally, at least here where we live, because it's moving a lot quicker. But we will see. Any changes to the movement to the east, a more north and eastern path, then things will get a lot worse here than at least we're predicting right now. So everyone have a good day. What I'll do is once this storm starts entering the Gulf of Mexico and really starts gaining traction, getting stronger, more organized, and we get more certainty on where that center of circulation will be, as it moves forward in time, then I'll start putting together more weather videos. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. All of you guys that follow these weather videos over the years, you mean a lot to me. We've done this a lot together, so appreciate it. Let's talk about it in comments. Where do you think it's going to go? Where do you live? Are you preparing for it? What are your thoughts? Let's get that going in comments. Anyway, I'll see you guys soon. I'll do a video, hopefully every update until this storm is long gone. But again, if the next update is very similar to this one and it hasn't really moved far or nothing much has changed, I'll wait and do it a little bit later on or tomorrow. Once the storm starts to push here in this area, we start getting outside feeder bands, storm surge, winds picking up, then I'll start daily or hourly or semi-hourly or however many videos I can get in, I'll do. So for now, take care, much love, don't forget to sub, and we'll see you soon. Take care, see ya.